What's up, guys? This is Nico from Limitless, and today I am bringing you Todd's spicy Celebi Venusaur deck. It's not going to be the list that he posted on Twitter, because after he published it, we all still invested some time into the deck, tested the deck, went into the ladder with it, and we still made some changes that, yeah, I hope you will like. So, of course, first of all, the MVP of the deck, we have Celebi Venusaur GX. First attack, Pollen Hazard for 2 colorless and a grass, 50 damage, and the opponent's active Pokemon is now burned, confused, and poisoned, which can turn pretty annoying pretty quickly for your opponent, because they will always have to switch out unless they want to flip for confuse. And you also get some damage with burn and poison in between turns, which is nice. Then the second attack is Solar Beam for 2 grass, 2 colorless, simply 150. It's just good to finish off big Pokemon once you're in a spot where you can allow yourself to just smack for a lot of damage and don't really need to annoy him with Pollen Hazard every turn. Then you have Evergreen Jax, which is the GX attack, which for 2 grass and 2 colorless, basically like the second attack, does 180 and heals all damage from this Pokemon. But if you have an extra grass energy, you also get to shuffle your entire discard pile back into your deck, which is pretty good. Doesn't happen too often, because most of the time you just Pollen Hazard all the time or Solar Beam and then try to either charge up a second Celebi Venusaur on your bench, or you just simply don't have the energy, or just attach the energy after using Pollen Hazard for multiple turns simply to heal. Doesn't happen too often that you get the second effect, but if you get, then it's pretty nice. Yeah, then our second Pokemon in the deck is going to be this Shaman, which once per turn allows you to heal 20 damage from your active grass Pokemon. It's pretty self-explanatory in this deck. You just want to keep your Celebi Venusaur alive, just keep it alive, and yeah, what's better to than just healing your Pokemon to keep it alive. And also Ram, but you will never use Ram. Then we have 3 Jirachi. We considered going down to just 2, but it's still super good in a lot of times to start with it, so we still went for 3. Stellar Wish, once during your turn, if this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, you may look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal trainer card. That includes stadiums, supporters, item cards, everything. Yeah, put it into your hand, shuffle the other cards back into your deck, and this Pokemon is now asleep. Yeah, sleep most of the time not really an issue, because we have multiple switching cards, and this just helps to boost a little bit the consistency, because this deck really doesn't have any onboard consistency, because you just need to put down 1 or 2 Celebi Venusaurs that don't get KO'd. And yeah, you don't have any space for cards like, I don't know, Substriker or Zoroark or whatever. Yeah, Slap also absolutely doesn't matter. And then for our supporter cards, we have 4 Guzma, which, yeah, it's just Guzma, yeah, trying to target down stuff on your opponent's bench or trying to lock up stuff. It's often pretty neat. Then we have 4 Cynthia for consistency, allowing us to, yeah, actually get, yeah, our kind of small setup. I mean, it's not really a lot that we need. It's just, yeah, grass energy and the DCE most of the time. So, yeah, that's basically enough as for this consistency, but we also have 2 judges shuffle supporters. As you will see later, we actually have 5 judges in the deck, depending on how we play. So yeah, 2 judges as it is perfectly fine. Then we have 1 healing supporter, which is Gardenia, that like didn't really see any play at all so far, so she finally gets her time to shine in this deck. She once per turn, or okay, not once per turn, but once you play it, you heal 80 damage from one of your Pokemon that has any grass energy attached to it, which usually is Venusaur. So healing 80 with supporter is pretty big in this deck, especially if you have 1 Shaman and Gardenia, you're already healing 100. And last but not least, we have a very situational supporter, but also, if you get to play it, very powerful supporter, which is Cyrus Prism Star. Can only be played if you have an active water or metal Pokemon, which in this case will be Jirachi. And your opponent chooses 2 Pokemon on his bench and shuffles the other one back into his deck. No. Yeah. For 1 second I thought he chooses 2 and shuffles them back. No. He chooses 2 and keeps them. Yeah, so Cyrus is very good against Malamar and kinda good against Zoroark. Against Zoroark, it's sometimes not as powerful because they can just rebench and continue attacking because they don't have a lot on board that they actually need during that turn. But for them having, like for Malamar, having to rebench in case that you can then Guzma again and try to take down is very big. Yeah, next up we have the item cards, which is for Acrobike for consistency, for Netball to get Venusaur, Shaman or Grass Energy, so basically also consistency. Then we have 3 Nest Ball, which is one of the biggest changes compared towards Twitter list, because back then he actually had 4 Shaman, and I believe he also had 4 Jirachi, and Nest Ball is basically the replacement for this, because you really don't, you actually don't want to open with anything that's not Jirachi or Venusaur. Sometimes you don't even want to open Jirachi, because yeah, as I already said, you want your opponent to have to go through 2 Venusaurs. I don't remember if I actually said it, but you want your opponent to go through 2 Venusaurs, so you're benching 2 non-GX max. So if you open Jirachi in some matchups, it's actually pretty bad, because sometimes you actually have to bench 2 Shaman, and that's obviously not possible anymore if they already KO the Jirachi, because then Guzmaing 2 Shaman is already game if they KO 1 Celebi Venusaur. So Nestball is just a pretty good option in this deck. Then you have 3 Judge Whistle, which is the reason why I said we have basically 5 judges, because this card either draws us a card or puts a judge from our discard pile into our hand. Both effects are actually used pretty frequently. Sometimes you just have to do some extra digging during your turn to find that attachment, or find a healing card or something. Then you can just draw the card, and especially in the later stages of the game, you can put a judge into your hand to judge your opponent and even take away more of their options. And then we have Force K-Rope. As I said, switching option, especially important with the fall retreat of Celebi Venusaur. Then we have, for our tool cards, we have 2 buff padding, which, if attached to a Pokemon with a retreat of exactly 4, it gets plus 50 HP. So it's pretty important to keep in mind that if your opponent puts down an Absol from Team Up, then Venusaur actually doesn't get the plus 50 anymore, because then he has 5 retreat. Then 2 escape board to be able to retreat Jirachi or Shaman, and 1 choice band. This, like, you can easily deal 180 with choice band with the second attack, which takes out stuff like Lele. But it's also very important for the Zoroark matchup, because you can actually, with the Jax attack, 1-hit KO Zoroark. Because in a lot of cases they like Ace the Roller, or at least once, but most of the time even multiple times. So let's say they attack for 150 because of choice band, and then you can just put on a choice band yourself, and you actually get to heal all your damage and get to KO full HP Zoroark. Last but not least, we have some stadiums for the trainer cards, which is 3 Aether Paradise Conservation Area, which makes every water and lightning basic take 30 less damage from opponent's attacks, which again synergizes very well with all the healing, because if you have either Paradise in play and play Gardenia and Shaman, you basically deal or heal 130 damage. I mean, of course, 30 damage you don't even get because of Aether Paradise, and then you can heal 100. So that's pretty good. And talking about healing, our second stadium is a Life Forest Prism Star, which once per turn allows us to heal 60 damage and remove all special conditions from one of our grass Pokemon. So again, with Shaman and Gardenia and Life Forest, that's 160 you can heal per turn, which is pretty insane. And the last stadium is going to be Wondrous Labyrinth, which on the first look is pretty bad with Venusaur, because you already need a lot of attachments, and you still have to pay one more cost to attack. But it's more about once you attach 4 energies, like 2 grass and a DCE, then you can still use the first attack, but your opponent will struggle a lot, because they can no longer do stuff like retreat or Ace Roller and bench something else, attach an energy. They actually have to attach multiple energies just to attack, and with stuff like Guzma you can target down stuff so easily that makes Wondrous Labyrinth very annoying for most opponents. And yeah, then after all the items, we still have some energies, of course, which is 4 DCE. Simple, we need DCE, so why not play 4? And then 6 grass. Yeah, we have the 6 grass and the 4 netball to great grass. Sometimes you might run out of energies, depending when you have to discard some with acrobike, or you just lose them, or maybe even have to pay retreat cost. But most of the time it's actually enough to have 6, because every Venusaur is technically fine with 1 grass only, and yeah, if you set up 2 Venusaurs, that's only 2 grass. Yeah, that's gonna be it for the deck list, and I hope you will enjoy the game I played. It's pretty interesting against Zoroark, and yeah, hope you enjoy. So we're up against Zoroark Decidueye Ninetales, which is which was a pretty popular deck before Team Up got released. So personally, I don't feel it's gonna be that good after Team Up, simply because it's very tough to deal with decks that one-shot Decidueye and Zoroark, because the main point of the deck is to not get one-shot. So it might get tough from time to time to keep up, but it should still be okay, I guess. But for example, against Celebi Venusaur, it's probably not too good, because you're just lacking the one-shot factor, aside from like attacking cards such as Untitled Jax, but that's basically it. Here in this starting hand, I'm keeping the Judge and the Nest Ball, simply because I have multiple grass energies in hand, so I 100% will just attach the next few turns, or at least the next 2 turns, because it's perfectly fine for me. I don't need to play a quick game, and if he decides to go for something like Beacon, I'd rather have the Judge for that turn to try to disrupt him. That's probably something that a lot of people might overlook or might do wrong when they play this deck. Just because you have a draw support in hand doesn't mean you have to play it, because there's actually not a lot you want to do each turn. So if you have all the cards you need, there's absolutely no point in playing any of your cards. And by any of your cards, I mean any of your draw supporters that you don't need. Here I'm just gonna go for the Gardenia, because I have a switching option in case my Jirachi is stuck. I have an energy to attach, so for me it's just fine to set up a board basically, and just have Gardenia in hand as one of the multiple healing options I have in this deck. Also, something that I at least thought at this point of the game was that once I play down my Life Forest or my Wondrous Labyrinth, that it will just stick, because most of the time Zoro Districts doesn't play stadiums, but as it turns out this guy does, so that will come in later. He gets a pretty decent setup, has his Ninetales on 2, has a Zoroark, has Macago, has Decidueye as well, gets eventually another Rowlet. Okay, so smooth over, depending on what he has in hand, like Rainbow or Switch, he's just gonna grab the other card. What I really dislike from his side is that he decided to power up Ninetales, which in this matchup is just horrible actually, because your maximum damage output is 100, because it's the 70 from Ninetales plus 30 of Choice Band. So Zoroark will always deal more damage, and especially if the Ninetales is getting confused, you're basically losing 2 of your energies unless you have Acerola, and then you have to switch into Zoroark anyways. So in his case I would just try to go for multiple Zoroarks. Here I was debating whether or not I want to bench a Shaman, but I decided against it, because I'm just gonna put down the Ether Foundation, then just heal with Gardenia and attack. simply not giving him the option to take cheap prizes when I don't need to. And at this turn I really didn't need to put down a Shaman, so I just decided to stay with the one Celebi Venusaur. As you can see now, he's in this like struggle position that he either has to grab an Acerola or retreat for DCE, and has another Rainbow just on his Ninetales for no reason. So yeah, really didn't like attaching to the Ninetales. I mean, even attaching to, attaching to the Sidra wouldn't have been better, because you after Acerola need to Rare Candy again, but again, why not just go for the Rogue? Has the Acerola though, which is fine, because I mean, against the Rogue you're expecting at least 1 or 2 Acerola, depending on how many they play, if they play Pulpet and whatever. And there you see that he has the Kick Gem, so it's a little tough, because now he actually gets to deal a lot of damage. 130 of Zoroark and the 20 of the Decidueye. Yeah, then he decided to then go for Shamans, simply to have as much healing as possible. But just one Shaman, because he's at 5 prices, so if I put down another non-GX, he simply gets to KO one Celebi Venusaur and the 2 bench Pokemon. But I would force him, of course, to KO 2 Celebi Venusaurs, because it's already getting hard for him to... And I was checking for the HP and I saw it's like 190, so there's actually something that he can't really hit, because Zoroark plus Choice Band right now would be 150, 160 with his Stadium, and then 20 from the Decidueye, so that forces him to actually be able to attack with Zoroark, have the Choice Band, and have Rare Candy Decidueye again, and I figured that's not very likely with his hand size, so I just went for this play. That's just sometimes what you have to do with this deck, because your strategy is pretty much preventing your opponent from KOing. So sometimes you just have to force him into a flip. But right here it's pretty annoying that he got the Ultra Ball for Ninetales as well, because that means he gets multiple trainer cards, which at this point will result into him actually being able to attack and also removing my buff padding, which is pretty annoying. Yeah. Okay, he actually didn't grab a Field Blower. In my memory he grabbed a Field Blower. Maybe he has it in hand, or maybe he doesn't even play it this turn. Yeah, you can see also one of the situations where Cyrus is absolutely horrible, because I will never bench Jirachi again, so I will never actually get to use it, which is pretty sad. Oh, okay, there's the Field Blower. So he actually gets the KO here, which is not ideal, to say the least, but it's also kinda okay. I mean, of course it's not okay, but it's doesn't lose us the game, because as I said, like, this is where it comes in very important, that we force him into attacking multiple taking down multiple Venusaurs, or Celebi Venusaurs, depending on how you want to call it, because he didn't have to use a single Guzma yet, so I would have just lost at this point. Like, he had all the time in the world just to get Guzma eventually, and then we'll just be done. I mean, the good thing is that most of the Zoro Digitals decks don't play more than one field blower. It's actually very, very unlikely to place more, especially because he also plays kick gym. Because the biggest reason to play field blower actually is to have like a kick gym in a metagame where there's a lot of gyms. But I guess because gyms became even more popular with team up, then it kind of makes sense to also have devout field. But it's also kind of hard to fit because you already, I mean, the deck already most of the time only plays 3/3 Zoroark, so that also already says a lot about how tight space is in this deck. Here, for some reason, he decides to spread 20 on the bench Shaman, which isn't really relevant. So right here, our hand is not looking too good, but we have the Judge Whistle, so we can actually netball for grass energy and then yeah, Judge after. So we definitely have the GX attack this turn. Would be amazing to get a choice band this turn, because that would actually swing the matchup a lot in our favor. He would lose his second DCE. And would simply take 2 prizes. Yeah, there I was debating whether or not to bench the Celebi Venusaur. I, in the end, decided to do it because I still had a lot of switching options left in my deck, and sometimes it's just nice to have the Venusaur as a backup option. And there I actually got the choice band, which is huge. Yeah, no need to use Shaman there, and then just GX. Sadly, not shuffle in the discard pile, but yeah, getting the 1-hit KO on Zoroark on its own is already amazing. Especially because now he can't just grab whatever he wants with Macargo. He actually needs to either have draw supporter like Lily, which he probably doesn't play since he's playing Elm, or he needs to set up another Zoroark. Also, I have Escape Rope and Guzma in hand, which is also very nice. Because right now he's going for an energy drive into my Celebi Venusaur. So I can just Escape Rope and then Guzma after, so I can actually take out the Tabolele next turn. Because that's basically the only threat. I could have also decided to go for Macargo, but at this point I felt that just taking the quick prize would put me in a very good spot, because I would take down his second choice band and his third DCE. And as you will see, this play that I'm doing now also plays around the Yveltal GX, because now I'm at 20 damage on my on the Venusaur I'm gonna attack with. So he would just need Rainbow Energy and Yveltal GX, because he already has one Decidueye, and of course also a switching option. So actually he still needs a lot, but with this play, or I mean, it's not even a play, like healing the 20 of the active one just makes absolute sense, because the 70 on the other one don't matter at all, because you will never one-shot this one. So it just makes sense to heal the 20, and that actually forces him to have a lot more stuff with his Yveltal. And there we actually see he benches his Yveltal, and with Macargo he's probably going to try setting up a second, yeah, so there I was just checking if I was correct about the GX attack, if it's actually exactly 4 damage counter or 4 damage counter or more. Thankfully it's actually exactly 4, so the bench Venusaur was completely safe from Yveltal, because if I'm not healing it, he for sure isn't healing my Venusaur. So yeah. Also, for some reason he decides to spread the 20s, like expecting me to have Guzma maybe, because other than that it doesn't make sense for him to not just go for the active one. Because even if I... okay, either way it doesn't make sense actually, okay. And of course I could have used the active one, but the bench one, in his case I think I would have probably most likely went for Shaman, because the game could have taken more turns. If it wouldn't have taken more turns, he could just take out the Shaman, prevent me from healing, and then try to split up with the active, but the bench Venusaur absolutely doesn't make sense. I mean, it has 270 HP, and you're just putting another 20, so it's still at, okay, 90 damage, so it's still at 180, so still nowhere near any of his Pokemon that he had on board, especially of being knocked out. So, I mean, I guess it really didn't matter where he put his disability damage, because if he doesn't have the 2 in one turn just to KO my active, he really doesn't have a good good shot at winning. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this game, and I was able to show you how the deck works and how strong it is, and how easy it is also to deny your opponent to take KOs. Of course, in one case he got the KO, but I mean, that's just what happens sometimes, and that's why that's exactly why you force your opponent through 2 of them, because then it doesn't matter if he gets like kinda lucky once to take it out. Yeah, that's gonna be it for this video, and I will see you guys next time.